Okay, so we're live streaming, so let's jump right in with the call to order of our regularly scheduled meeting of the Design Review Board for Monday, April 4th, 2022. And the first thing, of course, we will do is roll call. I am Steve Antonio and I'm here. However, I lost the Zoom meeting on my desktop. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. Polly Rice here.
Hi, everyone.
Anka Dragulski.
Hello.
Elaine Lang.
Here.
Kate Beal, you're on mute.
Here.
And that establishes a quorum. Heather Goetz is here as our liaison to the Board of Selectmen. Thank you very much. Bob's here as our liaison to Economic Development. Thank you as well. Our first item on our agenda is, I'm so sorry, application 22-11 of Cobb School applicant owner Brandon Clark agent application for a site plan amendment pursuant to section 3.5 of the Simsbury zoning regulations for the construction of a 29-foot by 17-foot pavilion on the property located at 112 Sand Hill Road. This is an R40 zone. Hi, Terry Ann, how are you?
Doing good, thank you. This is Terry Hahn, LADAPC for the applicant, and Mike Grappone from the Cobb School is with me here as well. I do have a short PowerPoint, if that's okay.
Whenever you're ready to share the screen, sure, please.
It's a lot easier to see it this way. So as everybody knows, we've been coming through COVID. The Cobb School back in 2020 started thinking about putting a pavilion for outdoor gathering of students, but didn't really, given the circumstances and everything, didn't really know if that was something they wanted to pursue. They have now come to the realization that it is going to be part of a permanent element of the program, just to be able to have an outdoor pavilion. And so we're looking at, this is the property itself, Cobb School Montessori, corner of Sand Hill and Bushy Hill Road. The pavilion is a pretty straightforward wood structure with shingles, open air, so that there's nothing. So it's a wood tone on the posts and a slightly sort of warm gray dappled shingles is what they're looking at doing. The pavilion itself is 17 and change by 29 and change for the outside edge of where the roof is. It's 9 foot clear inside, 12 feet 6 inches high, and it would be located on the where the setbacks come together on facing Bushy Hill. I just threw in a couple of photos so you can see sort of what the area looks like on Bushy Hill. There's an existing wood fence. There's a berm and some planting all along that area, so you can sort of see what the area looks like. Way back across the field, there's a backstop for a baseball field. And this area of lawn is used regularly by the students and school. So the site plan shows that the pavilion would be put right in the kind of corner where the setbacks meet, on the north corner of the property. You can see on this where the existing fence and berm are along Bushy Hill Road. It's a relatively small element, just an enlargement of where it would go and how big it is relative to anything. Depending on where your pictures of people are, I do have a couple of an image on the right hand side of the screen showing the pavilion put into the photograph looking from Bushy Hill. So I don't know if you can see that or if you've got it covered over like mine currently is. And then on the next page, I have 2 more images from just a couple of different views showing where the pavilion would go relative to the fence and how it would fit into the landscape. That ends my presentation.
Well, thank you for, as usual, a totally detailed overview. Let's get into it. Do any of the commissioners have any questions right off the bat as far as this pavilion?
I don't have questions. the presentation was extremely clear. I do have though a suggestion. Again, my suggestion is just very personal, especially because I don't know, I don't have any feedback of why the pavilion was designed as such. So keeping the exact footprint as it is shown, would you consider increasing the eaves overhangs? And maybe by doing this, adding some brackets, cedar brackets, purely decorative on one hand, but also maybe you know, they might have some structural function as well. Again, just a suggestion, looking at this pavilion for the first time. And having said that, I think adding some brackets, even in the current configuration, fake brackets at the top of those cedar posts might add a bit of charm to it.
I think there actually is a little bit. I think that there's a little bit of a bracket shown on the brace. It's a more of a metal brace, so it sort of fades away.
I was thinking like you know, more obvious, like wood brackets. You know, as again, as I said, they might be just fake, just purely aesthetically added there. Real brackets.
I think the style of the architecture was the Montessori school, especially the rear facades, are relatively straightforward with sort of simple verticals. They don't have a lot of ornament. So we're just trying to be consistent with that. Any kind of additional wood bracket would just add additional costs. So it's, you know, I think if it's something that you guys are going to insist on, we'll
no, I don't insist. This is just my very personal suggestion. As I mentioned, I don't know, I don't have any feedback of how the design was produced, what's behind the whole idea. And other than that, as I said, the suggestion, I think it's fine. I have no other comments.
Thank you.
Okay, let's keep it rolling. Just for clarification though, Terry, were there brackets there or not? Because I thought I saw the terminology of brackets, but you implied they were metal versus the wood Anka is talking about.
No,
Am I understanding
they're
that?
totally different. Yeah.
I think it's just, you see these, oh, hold on, can you find my cursor? So you see these pieces here? They're just
braces.
like a brace.
Okay,
What are they made of?
I believe they're made out of metal.
Like dark metal or light metal
Dark metal. We want them to fade. We don't, you know, we're trying to sort of be as sensitive to the area as possible. And we really just kind of want to continue to feel like this is a backdrop. We weren't trying to bring attention to it.
Yeah.
so those are like steel plates, for lack of other terminology, correct?
Yeah, but probably painted black.
Okay, all right, cool. Polly, were there any other questions or comments you wanted to make?
No, I'm satisfied with the presentation and the construction ideas for this structure. Thank you.
Okay, Elaine, do you have any questions or comments?
I do not. I just thank you for your putting in the little clip art pavilion in the site, in the pictures of the existing space. It really helped to envision what it will look like. So thank you for adding that to your presentation. It helped me understand it much better.
Cool, thank you.
Welcome.
Kate? You're on mute.
Yeah, everything looks good to me.
Okay, well, there's no reason to delay. Were there any members of the general public that wanted to speak regarding this application? I'd invite you to give us your comments now if you would like to. Okay, hearing none. I apologize for the delay. I'd like to close this application and we can deliberate amongst the commissioners. Does anyone want to discuss anything in particular as far as this application? it does seem rather cut and dry. It's a pavilion. It's got 4 legs and a roof. It does seem to blend in with the surroundings. It's non-obtrusive in my personal opinion. I don't think I speak for everybody, but it does seem non-obtrusive. And unless anyone would like to voice additional concerns or questions, I
don't know. I don't know if they have an architect or not, but honestly, I think they could have done a much better job, aesthetically speaking, with this pavilion. It's not just about money. You can do many nice things with a pavilion. And as I said, extending the overhangs would have made it so much nicer. And the entire covered area would have been bigger. I mean, functionally speaking, it would have, been adding to the covered space. But again, it seems that they have their mindset, and I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. It is what it is. Many things would have been done different with this pavilion, but again, it is what it is.
Terry Ann, is there any possibility the applicant would consider enlarging the coverage of this pavilion to accommodate some of that input?
The approach was to come up with the smallest use area that the school felt comfortable with. We felt that there was a gray area in terms of what was too big and what would have been detrimental, for the area from a visual perspective. So we came up with something that was fairly modest. I think that the school is fairly committed to this particular footprint, feels comfortable with the amount of area. I don't disagree with anything that Anka has said, but I do know that there was an intent to not overstep. So I can appreciate wanting more, but I think at this point, this is what the school thinks is able to serve its needs.
Okay, with that explanation, I'd like to move forward. I understand their position, and honestly, I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill. As such, if it's okay with everyone, I'd like to make a motion to approve application 22-11 of Cobb School applicant owner Brandon Clark, agent, application for a site plan amendment, amendment pursuant to section 3.5 of the Simsbury zoning regulations for construction of a 30-foot by 18-foot plus or minus pavilion on the property located at 112 Sand Hill Road per plans provided entitled Proposed Outdoor Pavilion Location Plan. The approval of the site plan modification is subject to the following conditions of approval. An administrative zoning permit is required for construction. And number 2, the commission authorizes staff to approve minor changes to the approved plan, such as landscaping, grading, etc. Said changes are to be made in writing to staff and approved prior to their implementation. Would someone like to second that motion?
I'll do so.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous. So there's no one to abstain or vote no. So the motion, or rather the referral, what is it, Laura? Is this a motion or a referral?
Just a positive referral to the
Yeah,
zoning
it's a
commission.
positive referral. So the positive referral is set forth. Thank you very much for taking the time in that presentation. Good luck with your venture. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Moving right along, application 22-12 of SL Simsbury LLC, applicant owner Holden Sabato, agent. Type 2 application pursuant to the Hartford form-based code for the construction of a 2-story, 8,800 square foot multi-tenant commercial building on the property located at 1 Cooper Avenue, aka the Rigid Talcott Mountain. This is at 250 Hop Meadow Street and is a zone HS-FBC. Is someone here to speak on behalf of the applicant? Sorry.
I will speak. Brian Cooney from FG Writing Architects. I'll
Thanks, Brian.
share my screen. So this application has been seen before. And can you see what the presentation coming up? Okay, so this has been seen before. So the last time it was reviewed by the board, this was a residential building. and that was the biggest kind of hurdle we had to get over. And at this point, we switched the entire building to commercial. So originally it was a 15-unit residential building. We'll just strike a line through that. That's commercial. And we have all the egress and everything implemented in the same building footprint as we did before, but now for commercial use. The aesthetic of the building is essentially the same. It matches the aesthetic of the residential units that are built on site right now, with the same paint colors, siding, materials, roofing, everything is essentially the same as the site and everything else that's built there right now. So this would be an additional commercial structure right at the entry off of Hot Meadow Street. One of the other changes we had from the last application, we lowered it because I know there was some site view questions for the ridge above and having views from Hot Meadow Street. So one of our updates to this presentation is that these side towers, there's one corner tower and there's one catty corner on the other side of the building, we lowered them 4.5 feet. And we also lowered the ridge height of the roof 4.5 feet and the first floor 2 feet. So we essentially shrunk the entire building for site views. So that just with that, the building looks very much similar to the last application we had. Just going through the elevations, keep going. So the elevations are broken up into kind of individual buildings, similar to what is built on site right now. So the look of the buildings, the residential buildings on site, have this same kind of broken up aesthetic of it seeming to be, different buildings all ganged together, in one kind of row, but in reality, it's one big building. And then, so here's a view from the residential side looking out towards Hot Meadow. My computer goes a little faster. Here is a view of the side entry. And we overlaid some views of the building from Route 10, Hot Meadow Street, just seeing what the actual scale of the building would be placed in the site. So existing buildings here on the right, and then our building proposed here on the left. And we did that from certain vantage points to see the actual ridge and the tower above, just showing that where, it's a clear view up above to the ridge up here. So we weren't blocking that. And then here's another view from this is from Hot Meadow. Don't mind the transformer, the guy in the lawnmower. We just want you to see the mountain and the tower beyond that. We're not blocking it. And that wraps up the presentation we have here. So if you have any questions.
I have one right off the bat, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I see when I look at that the right corner, if you will, where the ridge at Talcott Mountain has what appears to be somewhat of a berm as well as tree plantings that help screen the building from the road. Is that something you'd consider doing on this opposing corner to match it?
Right here, this.
Well, it was further to the right, to be quite frank. Go back to the screen you just had.
This one right here. Yes, I think they would. I think that's part of the.
Now you're still missing it. Go back to.
Stephen?
Yeah.
Stephen, we will, Rod, who's also on this call, is going to have a revised landscape plan, and we will have those types of plantings
right there
around that side. And I just want to be clear, this is this set of drawings shouldn't say we're building a retail commercial building to be in compliance with the form-based code. And if down the road we can't get tenants in it, we wanted the building to be flexible to go to residential. So I see residential all over this. They shouldn't be. It's to be in compliance with the form-based code. And they've lowered this building a little bit, and we're going to add the plantings, and there's going to be a landscape sheet that accompanies this also that VHB is preparing.
Yeah, well, it's my personal item is that if it's commercial in nature, you want the exposure to the street for commercial purposes. But if it is not going to be commercial in nature, let's hide it. Not because, we're ashamed of it, but I think the screening of trees will help as far as maintaining the aesthetic of the ridge behind it. It just helps screen it, literally. And you have that on the right side of the driveway as we look at slide 7 of 9. You can see those trees. I don't know what their mature height will be, but they're doing what, in a residential neighborhood looks nice, which is hiding the building. I understand if we're going commercial, we want the exposure, but if we're not, we should include some screening of the building to help it blend in with the backdrop. With that comment being made, let's just jump into another commissioner's comments or questions. Anka, you went first last time. How about continuing with you?
Okay, aesthetically it looks good. I know we are not supposed to comment on the scope of the building, but honestly, I was thrilled when I read the word commercial. Finally, commercial building in Simsbury. Now, unfortunately, it looks like it might not be commercial in the end. I truly hope that you guys are very honest with us in terms of what this building is going to be, residential or commercial. I hope it will stay commercial. It implies lots of fire rating separations between the floors, different code standards if it's one or another. And if it is going to be commercial, definitely it should be more open for the street, for the public, maybe different window sizes, glazings and everything. So what can I say?
Sorry, not to interrupt. If I could answer that though, our plan is fully to build commercial. We're hoping you guys could actually help us source a tenant for it. We just, with the experience of the building across the street being a commercial building, being vacant for so long, we're kind of just forward thinking maybe a few years from now, if something doesn't work out here, we'll go back to the board and maybe, everyone will feel differently to transform, go through the necessary steps to transform this into a residential building. If needed, only if needed. Right now, it is 100% commercial building.
It's okay. I like this idea of 100% commercial building. And, don't be afraid. Look in Avon, just over the border with Avon. They build commercial, okay? And right now they are vacant, indeed. But they will be filled with tenants pretty soon. And all the residents in Simsbury, they will go and spend their money in Avon. So build something commercial in Simsbury as well. And I'm sure you'll find great tenants.
Yeah, our hope is we find a tenant for this, and it's
you will. I'm sure you will. Yes. Yeah, it will have a good investment.
The one across the street from it too. It might fill the corners and work and help.
If I could interject after that comment, can we clarify the timeline and what level of construction we expect to be completed in that timeline?
So right now, Rodling's office has prepared foundation plans for this building that I think we will get into the town this week for a foundation release permit, which Henry and the building department have helped us with in the past. So I could see if this gets through zoning and this committee right now, possibly I'm going to be optimistic and say 2 weeks, but more than likely 3 weeks, this foundation could get under construction with Compass Enterprises, who's done all of the other foundations. And that would be to get the foundation going and in place so that we would buy that time while the top of the building was being designed for construction.
Okay. So we're going to move forward with commercial. That's actually where I wanted to go. And can you commit, just curiosity, it's not our purview, but how long you're willing to give this to be fulfilled with commercial tenants? Is there a reasonable timeline we can expect?
Vacant, basically, until we want to go back residential.
Oh, I don't know. I would say that it would kind of be more up to the town of Simsbury. I mean, obviously, we would want to give it a shot for maybe a couple of years.
I agree. So we'll
I
just
think that would be
proceed
fair.
commercially. Yes, that would
Right.
be appreciated. Sometimes it takes time for the stars to align, that a tenant and a landlord come together at the same time. It does have a question about.
I
I'm
have a
sorry.
question, I have a question that kind of adds on to that.
Sure.
The building on the opposite side of, is it Cooper Street, Cooper Road? I don't know. Wasn't that built for commercial?
Yes, ma'am.
Correct.
And where are we at with filling that with commercial tenants?
No luck. I think that's 3 years now, and we've had a couple of interests in it along those 3 years, but nothing's ever really. There's no tenant in there
And what's the plan going forward for that property?
right now. We don't have a plan for it. It was kind of built with a high ceiling for a retail commercial use. I don't know that it's amenable to changing to residential. That's why we're kind of looking at the other side of the street a little bit differently now.
Okay. So the one that you're proposing today is flexible in that it can be moved to residential easily or more easily than the existing building on the other side of the street.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Kate, you ready to?
So I don't have a ton of experience in retail design, but I don't like, what kind of tenants are you thinking would go in these buildings? I'm just like, it does really have a very residential flavor to the architectural style. It's like I understand completely that you're trying to be flexible. You need to fill the buildings with something at some point. But I almost wonder if that's taking away from people's desire to utilize it for, like, it doesn't, like, there's no patio if there was a restaurant. There's no, like, I just don't know, like, what kinds of tenants you're trying to get in there. And if the design of the building, while I think it is aesthetically pleasing, says retail or commercial.
The first building, the smaller one on the other side of the street that's up, it's almost exactly what was in the form-based code as far as how it was going to look, the colors, the sizes, the patios. So it just basically copied the code. This one is tweaked a little bit. And you can see with the doors and entrances for multi-tenant commercial. It would require some modification to go back to residential if it was, if it wasn't filled. But so I understand exactly what you're saying, but it was kind of to stay in line with the code that this property had associated with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not saying it should be like a big box store. I'm just, I just try to picture of, like, who is it going to be, like an office building, or you were saying like retail, so little shops.
Right.
Is it like a hairstylist? I don't know. I'm just trying to think of, like, who is like the market tenant, and is the building marketing to them? Because I think, to like Anka's point from last time, we want commercial tenants to get in there. We want you guys to be successful, and we want those commercial taxpayers, right? Like, so.
The other side, I think, Holden will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was a wine shop.
Yeah, it was like a
lunch
brewery or something.
brewery,
Yeah,
that's it.
yeah. That wanted to go in the space for whatever reason. It didn't work out. I don't know why.
A couple of coffee shops.
It was a few different.
And there's a second floor, so would there be retail space on the second floor?
No. So in a retail, application, the 8,500 feet is on one floor, the bottom floor. So it would be just the bottom floor and with a 10-foot ceiling.
And what's on the second floor then?
The second floor would have nothing on it. And if in a retail commercial,
Offices maybe.
So the second floor is going to be unusable if this field is filled with retail?
Well, if I could chime in a little bit, this is Jeff Rotting. They also have the ability to put office on that second floor. That's an
So
allowable use.
like medical or
Right.
financial planners or whatever, something like that.
Right.
Okay, so it's not going to just be empty, because then why build the second floor?
Correct.
Okay, because it's, again, my main thing in the past about these buildings is the, hindrance to see the ridge from, driving up to the property, even though you can see it where you are driving into the driveway, but coming up from, downtown Simsbury, it's hindered. And if you're not going to be using the space on the second floor, then why build it? So that's
Understood.
my point with that. Thank you.
I have, not to interject, Elaine, I'm going to get right to you, but if we could go to the elevations again, where would the business signs be? Because I don't
Thank
see
you.
where you could possibly put those in. Even a monument sign would be somewhat obtrusive to the plan.
I think the idea is that on this corner, above this corner, you could have one above the windows, I think here. And you probably want one on these entrances. You could put it on, let me go back to the plan. Above here, there's these balconies, faux balconies. You could put them on there right above your tenant entrance. Then on the corner, it's kind of your primary tenant. You could have up above on the tower, which is visible. Potentially.
And if you have signs out front, then you'll be coming before the design review board in the future to get permission to do XYZ on those signs, right? Stephen, is that true?
It would be. So I am sorry to have interjected, but Elaine, please let us know what your comments or questions are, please.
No, I think the other commissioners had excellent questions. I had been thinking, well, what really are you going to get for commercial beyond a professional practices? You're going to get a bunch of physical therapists, lawyers, accountants, and that's about it. I don't see it. It doesn't look like a retail building. You could pleasantly surprise me. But, I applaud the effort at getting some business locations in there and hope it pans out. Which is not our purview at all, but design-wise, I think it's harmonious with the rest of the design. So I don't really have anything to add beyond that.
Okay. As we've all spoken, is there any member of the general public that did have any input as to this application before we close the application? Not hearing any, I'd like to close the application. So commissioners, if we could deliberate amongst ourselves before we make a final referral or whatever we end up doing. I'll start the discussion. I am concerned about the signage. I think we could retrofit it in, and I understand that we are doing this as sort of being able to pivot a halfway mark between now and residential. We're not confirming residential, and we are not approving it for residential, but we are enabling that to be a plan B. That being said, the signage is a sticking point for me. I don't see any, being in the commercial sector, even if it was someone like a masseuse or a hairstylist, you want your sign to be legible from the street. And there's no monument sign. It although there's the appearance that we have a commercial proposal here, it definitely looks residential. And those commercial components, some of them are missing. But I also do acknowledge the need for a plan B. So I'd rather have a, you know, a building that has tenants in it than a vacant building, just, you know, being a black building or whatever you call it, the black light thing. Black house.
My concern, Stephen, is the number of years the other building has been empty, and then the potential for this one, once built, to be empty for who knows how many years, which doesn't bring, you know, the whole community that lives there, they're not going to be thrilled with having empty buildings on the property. So yes, having a plan B is good, but how long to wait till that happens?
And you do point out there is commercial space available in a very near proximity, which is relevant to the plan B being acknowledged. Anka, we're talking just amongst the commissioners.
I totally agree with you, Steve, when it comes to the signage. It was not included at all in the design. I totally agree with Kate. And as I said before, maybe I didn't choose my words rightly, but the design as it is right now, it's not convincing to be commercial. It's not enticing any tenant to come here to bring their businesses, except if they are lawyers, financial advisors, you know, a small office services. I mean, I would very much like to see this building looking convincingly commercial. And if they do this, they will be certainly able to find good long-term tenants, and the building itself, the investment will be a success. Probably the same thing happened with the other building. And honestly, it's not our problem if they do not find tenants. It means that they did something wrong, either marketing the space or designing the space. We are reviewing the look of the building, the design. And right now, to me, the way this building looks, it doesn't say commercial.
Kate, you're nodding yes. Can you vocalize?
Yeah, because I tend to agree, because I just feel like you can't give it. I understand the need to pivot. I do, but I feel like you can't give it a fair shot if you aren't being true to what the building is supposed to be used for. And there's real, you know, design elements involved in something that really reads, and it can still be beautiful, but really reads commercial, so that people actually want to use it. And it's not just, oh, I have my office in a house, because there's lots of other opportunities for that. But if you really want to bring in new types of tenants and actually want retail, then you need like storefront and things that speak to retail. And outdoor spaces if you're going to have a restaurant, and signage certainly incorporated in a more bold way. I was like, that was right on the tip of my brain, Stephen, when you brought it up. So I'm so glad you did. And it's, I just think it's not setting itself up to be successful in the commercial category the way that it is kind of how I feel about it. But I don't find the building unesthetically pleasing. It's just, I don't think it's serving the purpose.
Do you think, just conversationally, if we suggested minimalizing the second floor windows, that would enable spacing for signage? Or do you think that's just going to make the building look weird?
I have to see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that could be an option. And then maybe they could put the windows in later if they needed to do it for the residential. But yeah, it just, I feel like I want to see more exposure on the ground level, like the ground level to be like so light and airy and like glass. And then the top should be a little bit more closed in. Yeah, I mean, that's
sort of what I meant.
Yeah, and I feel like it should read differently than the rest of the residential buildings. Like, I don't think it needs to, it should look like it belongs in that neighborhood, but it doesn't need to match because it's a different use.
Can I interject here just a little?
Yeah, by all means.
If we did make the upper level less windows for signage, then we would kind of be rendering it less useful if it's office. You know, we don't want to block off sunlight if this was an office function on top, you know. So it is a trade-off, you know, having sign space versus not sign space. And on the first floor, there is quite a bit of light. This is quite a bit of windows. You can see in here. I know what you're saying, you storefront having like full windows and full transparency through everything, but in all the entrances, they are full lit glass entries. So there is quite a bit of sunlight coming in through here. The sign functions above the doors should mark each business. And I do understand what you're saying about the street, but we thought that this location up here would be kind of your prime sign location from the street that you can see from the entry.
Okay, that wouldn't be what a tenant would say, to be quite frank with you, because you're going to say it. I'm going to push back because I'm in commercial real estate. Signage is king, and you got to get the guy's eye that's going by. Furthermore, I think we would like to see some form of outdoor eating on the front right corner, some fenced in area with a patio of sorts. If you're going to try and say that this might be commercial, then it's got to look commercial. And to be quite frank, it's not looking commercial. So I understand the ability to pivot and we want to work with you, but having oversized windows on the second floor is not necessitated to get daylight in. It's trying to have the cake and eat it too. And honestly, as I look more and more at it's really unbecoming from a commercial tenant's thing, because it's so choppy and uninviting to just walk up to the door and see what wares you have for sale or what services you have. It's a destination type. It's almost a 2-floor office building the way it's presented right now. And I think you have retail ability on that front right corner. You've got a target market that's just locked up right there, that, a neighborhood bar, not to say it, would be great. Sorry about the dog.
If I can answer a few of these comments. By the way, they're good comments. They make a lot of sense. First off, the patio is a great idea. I think we would handle that though more towards when we would actually receive a tenant, towards the actual fit out, just because that's so specified for that specific use. We could certainly add it to the site plan, but during that stage, just so we're not blocking anyone out. The signage makes sense. We could certainly go back to Rodding and Brian and kind of talk about that and see what we can make happen. The overall look of the building was really to be harmonious with the remainder of the community and the retail building across the street. I know we came in and the form-based code, which we're bound to. I know we came in with kind of the barn design first, which doesn't really match the rest of the community, and you guys didn't like it, so we want to come back with a look that matched the remainder of the community. Honestly, there's certainly things we could add or change to make it a little bit more presentable for the retail use, and you definitely have your points there, but that's kind of where we were going with everything.
You can take glass out of the second floor and now, and then reintroduce it if need be 2 years down the road or whatever you think the appropriate amount of time is, so that you have more room for signage, and it could be built that way with some of that glass removed.
Well, certainly you're going to have a header above that window anyways. To drop it back down would be very simplistic construction wise.
Mr. Chairman, may I share something with the commission from master site plan development in regards to signage? So this is Rod Swilicki with VHB. If you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen quick, Brian.
Yep.
Can you guys see that?
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Not yet. Let me give it another try. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Yes.
So this is the example signage directly out of the master site plan development, that the package that was approved. So these are examples of signage that would be proposed with this building when the retail commercial office space comes in. So the intent of this whole design was to have this downtown walkable community feel where you have these small outcroppings for your small businesses coming up. So it's not to show this huge retail presence, but it's more of a walkable community with examples right here from what was approved in the form-based code.
But those look more commercial, to be quite frank. The presentation of the windows and the ratio of the signage to the building frontage. It's definitely minimalized where it's a small, cornice on the building as proposed. Look at the Emporium, how wide and long it is proportionately. Look at the gooseneck lights. You need some height to be able to facilitate those, which they do look good. The pendant signs, you don't want those hanging in front of a window. There's just not enough backdrop on the building as proposed. And there's that old saying, build it and they will come. Well, if you want to invite an eating and drinking establishment, telling them they can change what it looks like is not how you bring them in. You show them the vision of a patio, which with COVID is a necessity nowadays if you want to have a food and beverage facility. And it's also honestly great advertising. It's almost equal to a sign, having those tables out there in front of a business. So if you're serious about the component that's commercial, it should be shown. If you want to try and get this to be residential, then just say it. It'd almost be easier, because that just seems like where you're hedging, but you don't want to say it, which, I think part of the original acceptance wasn't maximum density residential for a reason. But the building across the street, there's got to be some reasons tenants aren't coming, because I got to be honest, and I'm not bragging, I've got 100% occupancy. There's other landlords in town that have 100% occupancy. The businesses are out there. So I know you could get tenants, maybe, supply demand, maybe the price is too high. I don't know what the reason is. It's not my job. I'm sure you have a real estate broker that helps you, but I wouldn't say it's impossible. And it just seems like it's being completely written off with this most recent presentation. The commission would agree with me, or am I out in left field all alone? Which, I'm willing to step back.
No, Steve, I agree. And I just connected the dots with our previous presentations when we were told it was absolutely going to be residential. And I feel like right now we're looking at an apartment building and we're being told it's going to be sold as commercial. But look, it's designed as an apartment building. I feel like it's been treated that the pivot is a foregone conclusion. I think you're selling yourself short. I think, as Steve says, you could get some really high quality commercial tenants in there if it was designed right. The first floor retail, second floor office, look at Drake Hill Mall, which is not a pretty building by any stretch, has managed to fill up. There are ways to do it. This building looks like an apartment building in Simsbury, not anywhere else, but it does not look like even these storefronts we are seeing up. We have a very quaint but walkable look. It doesn't look like an apartment building. It looks like a old time town center. And I'm getting an apartment building vibe from the overall design. And I'm sorry, I'm not an architect. I'll leave it to the architects to explain, although I think Anka led us there very well.
What I would suggest, let's do this. Find an anchor tenant first, design around their needs, and then come back to us and we'll offer our opinion. And then you'll really prove that you're looking for commercial tenants.
So Anka, you're saying to not build it until there's a tenant.
Yeah, I think if they really want to,
just getting the whole picture there.
The way I look at it at this point, find some tenants, some commercial tenants, some big anchor tenants, and then this will bring bring out the design. Patios, porticos for walking outside, windows, doors, everything, lights, signage, and we will buy into their intent to build commercial.
Well, actually, even a hypothetical tenant like a nice little restaurant quote unquote, might be useful for design. Anka, I mean, they're not going to secure a tenant without a building. I understand the workflow issue, but let's pretend we're going to get a nice restaurant in. It might be a useful exercise.
Yeah, it's the egg and the chicken.
We can't disagree with those comments. The space actually was not started. Construction was not started on it because of what was happening with the smaller building on the other side of the street. However, in the larger project, this piece needs to be started. And that's why, and I understand your comments and you're spot on with the overall look of the building. It does look residential, and we're kind of being forced, and we agreed to be forced back in the beginning to build this space here. And obviously the best thing to do is to not build anything until you know what you want to build. But we have to be somewhere in the middle with it. And so it does have that residential look. And in order to complete the townhouses behind it, we need to do something here. And so while I agree with all of the comments, my hand is kind of tied right now. And as far as, waiting for someone to come take the space. And we do have some good name brokers on this. We've had many brokers. It's not like we're not trying to get a tenant. And personally, I'm responsible for the overall project and building the buildings on it. And I agree. I think it would be nicer to see a retail tenant, a restaurant, a bar, or something in here versus more units. As long as somebody moves into it and takes it. And I like what Rod put up here. I'm wondering if we couldn't do a rendering that did look more retail and commercial versus what we have, and maintain the flexibility. I think we're trying to do the right thing here, and maybe the presentation just was a little bit too quick and not thought through. But if a retail tenant wants to take this space, we're all for it. We're absolutely for it. And I just don't want to have a bill. I have about $440,000 sitting on the other side of the street that I can't do anything with right now. And we're trying to avoid that mistake again on a larger building on this side of the street. So
I mean, I honestly think that if you take a minute to envision what the prospective tenant would want to see and like how they would respond to it, instead of just being like, we built this building, like here's what it looks like, it's beautiful, you want to be a tenant here. Like if you make a place where a sign would go, and it doesn't have to have a business name, but you show the signs and you make it look like it's like a lifestyle space that people want to be in as retailers, I think you'll have a lot better chance of filling it than if you show them something and say, if you don't take this, we'll make it apartments. I think you'll have more luck, or your chances at least a little bit better. If you kind of show them what it is that they're going to see, like show them how it will be for them. And that involves like actually putting in sign placards and things on new renderings and showing the walkability and kind of helping people envision and showing some tables out front, that kind of thing. Like it's not that you have to build it all at once, but to show them that what it would be like, I think would be beneficial.
I think they do have to build this to go on to the next phase. Laura, is that correct?
Currently, there is a condition on the zoning approval that once they hit 90%, they cannot get any more COs. This is the rock and the hard place that he's coming up against. I believe there's 16 units left before the commercial shell, according to the original master plan, had to be built.
Well, I think the key and operative word there is shell. Honestly, we just want a welcoming shell. Quite often a tenant will want to do a build out to their specs. But I think I speak for the commissioners as a whole that we seem to have sort of gelled around the opinion. We'd like it to come back with a little more viable, more of a viable commercial proposal. And, it will help you garner. And it's like when you get a new car, Sometimes you don't care if it has power seats, but you get the power seats because that's part of the package. The commercial was part of the package, and I don't see a hardship yet that we need to deviate from the package. So I think the design review board is kindly requesting you come back with a more defined or definitive commercial proposal. We're not asking you to rebuild the building. We're asking for a facade that looks commercial. Does everyone agree with me? It's just,
Yes.
I'm just trying to articulate an actionable item.
Absolutely. And honestly, your well-populated existing residential should be a draw to commercial tenants. I look at the place up in Granby where they built the apartments around the breakfast joint. Well, there's a line out the door every morning because it's on everybody's way to work. Yeah. Thank you. I drew a blank, but you are delivering residents right there. You should be able to get coffee spots and evening cocktail spots in with no problem because you're giving a captive audience. So, I think you got great potential.
So with that being said, just to expedite things, we have another meeting on April 18th. If these changes could be performed before then, we'd love to see them. We are here to work with people always. We are not just a hard no. We are, let's move this a little bit to the left or right, depending on how you look at it. And we'll certainly love to have you come back if you could.
So understood. And if I may use this form while we're all together, Jeff, do you know what we need to do in getting a little more space for decent signage? Maybe getting a little bit of window space out of this thing and addressing just the overall look. We're not changing the shape or size, but we want to make an honest effort to portray commercial on this building, this presentation for the 18th, if you'll have us again. Jeff?
You there?
Do you know what to do?
Yes, we know what to do. This is Brian from FG Running. We know what to do. I think we have some ideas as to how to go about improving signage locations and making this overall, even just these elevations, seem more inviting for a commercial tenant, showing people outdoor space and what have you.
Yeah, instead of the lawnmower guy, show a guy buying something.
Why don't we let's use some of the sizes and proportions here. I think it was to Stephen's comment, and there were the Emporium, and we'll come back. And thank you all for your time.
I love the name Emporium. You should
Thank
put
you.
that up there. That's a great name we don't have locally.
I think
Thank
it would
you
be
for your
great.
time.
There's over 200 residents in there, and I think they would enjoy having some commercial right there that they could walk to. So
Coffee's
maybe we'll get
big.
there.
Big money in coffee. Well,
Absolutely.
thank you again for your time. And I don't want to appear apologetic that we're not giving you a positive referral, but we are most certainly appreciative of continuing to work with you and your open-mindedness to our viewpoints. Thank you for your time and effort. And we look
Thank
forward
you.
to seeing you soon.
Appreciate it all. We'll see you on the 18th. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
So to keep things moving along, approval of minutes, March 21st, 2022. Did anyone have the time to read them that also noted any changes or anything that was
They look
missing?
fine to me.
Yep, look fine to me too.
Yeah. Okay, then would someone like to make that motion so I don't make every motion nowadays?
I'll
Move to
approve.
accept. Well, okay, and I'll second.
All right,
Kate,
all those in
That
favor?
was Kate and then me. Thank you.
Aye. Does
Aye.
anyone need to abstain? Nope, we're all positive, so there's nobody to vote no. We have passed that unanimously. Okay, general commission business. God, it's not George Clooney. Laura, what's the guy's name?
George McGregor.
I am so sorry. I apologize. In a public forum, no less. I'm so sorry. George McGregor is our new town planner, and he will be arriving, if I'm not mistaken, April 16th, correct?
April 11th.
Okay, that was my second guess. In the interim, Laura and Joe are both down there doing everything we need to do, so we are functional moving forward. And, George's a great guy. I think we're going to really enjoy working with him. and it's only less than 2 weeks away. So home stretch as far as sort of recalibrating our department. We are still without an assistant town planner, but honestly, it's been too soon to react, but I look forward to filling that position as soon as possible. I don't think there's any other general commission business. Lord, can you think of anything?
No, I believe that's it.
Okay, with that being said, would someone like to make a motion?
Motion
for
to
that?
adjourn.